How's it going, everyone? Got some notable PlayStation news to talk about in this video. I know that there has been a lot of talk over really the last year to 16 months about digital versus physical gaming. You look at something like the PlayStation 5 Pro that releases as a digital-only $700 console, and it gets people thinking on whether or not a PlayStation is going to push all digital in the coming years, especially with their next generation, the PlayStation 6. We'll talk about that, and Sean Layden actually spoke on why he doesn't believe that'll happen and why the PS6 will support discs, so we'll talk about that. Former PlayStation CEO Sean Layden spoke on why the PlayStation 6 won't drop disc support. He noted and spoke a lot of different things, mainly because while Microsoft is able to push a digital-only console, being the Xbox Series S, and there's digital-only Xbox Series X SKUs, the issue with the PlayStation 5 is going to be the fact that it is available on a lot of different countries, 170 different countries, and it is a dominant presence in all of those countries, each with different internet connectivity conditions, making it unlikely that Sony would eliminate physical game support with the PlayStation 6. You know, that is a really interesting point. I am of the mindset that I don't think they're going to eliminate physical support and physical disc. I do believe they'll do things in their power to push people towards digital gaming. You can't undercut retail partners. That's just not going to happen, and undercutting retail partners, there's a little problem with that, meaning they make less money. Anything that is going to impact them as far as money is concerned, they're not going to do, and I don't think even undercutting their retail partners, which they can't do anyway, but let's say hypothetically they did do, I don't think that alone would get people jumping to digital gaming. What I do think would get people to jump to digital gaming is something like the PlayStation 5 Pro, not the sense of a $700 console, but making the disc drive optional, I think would make a lot of people pick up the PlayStation 5 just without the disc drive. I think what they could do is they could release the PlayStation 6 as a digital-only console. You have to buy the disc drive separately, and maybe bundle in a game that's digital only, do some bundles or something like that, and that might get people of the mindset of being like, hey, I'm getting a PlayStation 5 here, I'm getting a game with it as well, I'll just play that game that it comes with and I'll get the disc drive later, or they don't even think about the disc drive. I think when you slap them in the face with it being like, this version has a disc drive and this version is digital only, the idea is they're missing out on something if they don't get the disc drive console. But if you change the perspective as if physical gaming is an add-on and not them missing out on something, well, then that game kind of changes a little bit, and I think they would shift more people into digital gaming. This is just, you know, how I would do it if I am from Sony and I'm trying to get people to jump into digital gaming. You gotta be a little crafty with it, you know what I'm saying? You gotta be a little sly with it. You can't force it on people. You can kind of push them along the way like they did with the PlayStation 5 Pro. I mean, a $700 console without a disc drive is kind of egregious, but I think for Sony, and Sony, let's be real, they don't have our best interest in mind. They care about the bottom dollar, especially when they're living in a world with very little competition. I think they are going to try to push people into digital gaming even more so. They're just going to be a little crafty with it, and I think you saw the first signs of that with the PlayStation 5 Pro. Layden also spoke on something very interesting. Sean Layden warns that rising AAA game costs, possibly reaching $400 million for PS5 titles, are unsustainable. Games are becoming too long and mismatched to the market. I've been talking about this for a very long time, but these games are getting exponentially more expensive. Starfield, Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, Intergalactic is going to have such a gigantic budget attached to it. That's why, while I think that game is going to do, like, in a vacuum, maybe you can look at, oh, the game sold 1.5 million copies and be like, oh, that's pretty good. But in the grand scheme of things, for the budget attached to that game, I think it's going to be a colossal failure. But nonetheless, these games are just getting so expensive. On top of that, the dev cycle is getting so long. God of War Ragnarok, 5 years. Spider-Man 2, 5 years from the original. I get they got Miles Morales out, but you get the idea. A lot of these games are a 5-year turnaround time, and Layden argues that the audience for console gaming is not growing at a rate fast enough to justify these sky-high budgets. Yeah, if you actually look at the console market, the PlayStation 5, like, fanboys will cheer on, oh my god, the PS5 is outselling the PS4 at the same rate. The Xbox Series is also down from the Xbox One. It's not that the PlayStation 5 is growing the console space, it's just that there's a little bit of a shift, and if there's a little growth, fine. It's nothing that's exponentially increasing like the game prices to create these games are increasing, and it's just not going to be sustainable in the long run, especially if the standard is that these marquee titles have to be at a Spider-Man 2 or God of War Ragnarok level. That's just not going to be sustainable. I've been calling for games to scale back down, and I get it. It's easy for me to say that. Once the toothpaste is out of the tube, what are they going to do? They're going to be like, alright guys, scale back games, we got Uncharted 2 for you, or Uncharted 2 level games. Look, Uncharted 2 was incredible in 2009. My jaw was on the floor when I first saw that Uncharted 2 E3 demo, but that's not going to be something that people are going to be like, what is this? A lot of people at least are. But I just think about it, man, you're talking about games like Dragon Age Veilguard having how many years since Anthem came out? Like 5-6 years since Anthem came out. That's the same window of time that BioWare put out Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3, Dragon Age Origins, and Dragon Age 2. Like, that's insane for me to think about. And I get it that BioWare is different as far as studio structure, but Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, all three of those games had exponentially shorter dev windows than Dragon Age Veilguard. Are any of you gonna tell me that Dragon Age Veilguard is a better game than Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3? Are any of you gonna tell me that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League with its 9-year turnaround was better than Batman Arkham Asylum or Batman Arkham City? Like, what are we doing here? Are any of you gonna tell me that Uncharted 2 and 3 aren't at the level of, you know, some of these other PlayStation titles that have come out? You know, I don't want to say are not at the level of Last of Us Part 2, since I know some people think that game is, like, absolute elite, but you get the idea. There were incredible games coming out at a much quicker time frame than they are now. Now, the games these days are also selling incredibly well. Like, you look at Spider-Man 2, you look at God of War Ragnarok, those games are selling incredibly well, but I also do think, like, I'm looking at it from the lens of the PlayStation 3 heydays. I don't think gaming and PlayStation was as hot in the PlayStation 3 era that it is now, but at the same time, while I say that, I do think we've hit that point where gaming is at that level. If the cost of development continues to increase, I don't think we're gonna see this exponential increase in sales. Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, these games have kind of set the ceiling. Does anybody in their right mind think Intergalactic is going to be, oh, that's going to be the game. That's going to take PlayStation to another level? It's not. It's not. And that's why, while I crap on PlayStation for their live service push, I am understanding of why executives in a board meeting can be like, yo, these games cost mad money, we sell them once, maybe we can release it on PC and make more money that way, but they have a cap, they have a ceiling. That is the reality with these games. They absolutely have a ceiling, and that ceiling isn't getting that much higher unless they increase game prices or they bake in things like DLC, microtransactions, etc., etc. But the idea of a live service game is those games have no cap. Marvel Rivals is going to make money for years and years and years, and that was their hope with Concord. That is their hope with Fair Game. And while it looks so spicy, that idea of a live service pop-off looks so spicy, it's just not realistic for you to be having 12 live service games in development and feel like you're cooking. You're just not. Like, I get it. The Marvel Rivals makes a lot of money. Fortnite makes a lot of money. You ain't gonna be making a lot of money with Concord, and you have to assess that situation. And I do think there should be a level of looking at what games you have in development. Some games, Spider-Man 3, you know, attack the gigantic budget onto it. God of War Ragnarok, or whatever the next God of War is, obviously gonna have a significant budget, but I do think there should be this happy balance of, okay, you have your marquee exclusives. I argue that if you have a console, and it doesn't really matter anymore since there is no console war, but if you want to draw people into a console, you have to have at least 1 or 2 marquee titles. In the 360 days, and that was Halo 3 and Gears of War for Xbox. These days on PlayStation, it's God of War and Spider-Man, you know, games at that caliber that are drawing people in. But do you need a billion games like that? No, you just need 1 or 2, and then you're fine. And then after that, you know, maybe greenlight some games that are at a smaller scale. Imagine you took all that money you burned on those live service games, and you were greenlighting a new Sly Cooper, a new Jak and Daxter. These games, nobody's asking for these games to be these $400 million mega productions, and I don't think anybody expects them to be that, and I would imagine those are the games that have a lineage attached to them, a history attached to them, where if they are a bit smaller scale, people aren't gonna bug out. But at the same time, you know, Ratchet Rift Apart, I'm sure, had a significant budget attached to it. That game was incredibly impressive, but there has to be a way to at least scale these games back a little bit, make these games a little bit shorter, and then you release it on PlayStation, release it on PC as well. You could probably still release those games at 60, 70 bucks and people will buy them. And I think they would do pretty well going about it that way. But I do agree, and that's a point that Sean Layden has made multiple times, and I'm like, yes, I totally agree with that. Look at Astrobot. Like, Astrobot had a 3-year development time. Game of the year. I think it would be great to see more titles like that, and just not everything having this, you know, 5-7 year dev cycle attached to a $300 million budget. How long is that going to be sustainable? I don't know, and this is me talking about it from the lens of just the consumer, but just assessing the situation. I don't know what the cost versus benefit of these super expensive games are. Yes, pick and choose, pick your spots, but at some point, the rubber's gonna meet the road on this one, I feel. But that'll do it for me. Again, let me know all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. As always, interested to hear what you guys think. What do you guys think about my ideas, like the disk drive being an add-on and presented as such is in a way that PlayStation can get more people into digital gaming? Ideally, you don't want them to do that, but I'm sure they would like everybody to be buying their games digitally. Nonetheless, curious to hear what you guys think. And also, the idea of games being scaled back a little bit. Look, I love Spider-Man 2, I love God of War Ragnarok, I love a lot of these big budget games, but at the same time, I think about the games from 2009, 2010, and I don't know exactly what the budget was on those games, but I would have to think they were much less than $300 million. But that'll do it for me. Your thoughts down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.